Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums. Today we're going to take a look at the short discography of a kind of obscure, little-known band, more notable for the lead guitar player who was with the band in the beginning than anything else. Of course, we're talking about Zephyr from Colorado, featuring early on one of the original members, guitarist Tommy Bolin, who went on to all sorts of fame as a guitar player for the James Gang and briefly for Deep Purple. He had a couple solo albums, but of course, due to drug addiction, was snuffed out way too soon before he could truly go on to do the great things that his career should have accumulated throughout the years, but left us way too young. But Zephyr was the first kind of notable band that he was in. They have 4 studio albums to their credit. I'm going to rank them in the order of my preference from number 4 to number 1. More of kind of like a blues rock band, I would say. Hard rock certainly, but definitely most of the material that they did throughout their career was in that kind of blues rock vein. Female vocals. All right, we're going to talk about the members and all that sort of thing. But let's start with my number 4. Number 4 is the only one that I don't have a physical copy of. It's easily my least favorite of the 4. It's a Heartbeat from 1982. If you can see that, that's the album cover right there. So this is after they had been away for a number of years and then got back together. So the one constant throughout the entire history of the band is Candy Givens on lead vocals, who had a I guess you could call it kind of like a Janis Joplin, Maggie Bell from Stone the Crows, that sort of thing. A little bit later on, she kind of took on more of kind of like an Ann Wilson from Heart type of quality. Really good singer. Really early on the first album or two, a lot of screaming, kind of like Janis, which I don't think really did her justice. I think she was much, much better when she reined that in a little bit. But here she is in 1982 on the Heartbeat album, fronting the band once again. You got David Givens on bass, okay, who had been in the band quite a bit over the years. Eddie Turner on guitars, a bunch of other guests. This album was recorded 2 years before Candy drowned in her hot tub with alcohol and drugs in her system. So again, another example of a very talented artist / musician who left us way too soon. And to think that from this band, the 2 main members, Tommy Bolin and Candy Givens, snuffed out way too soon, right? But this is an interesting album because again, it's 1982, so you had the whole kind of disco scene has kind of come and gone, and punk come and gone. You got new wave, all the rage. You got hard rock and metal kind of starting to come to the forefront. So you got a wide variety of styles on this album. You got "Don't Come Back" is a pretty cool rocking song. You got "I've Got a Secret," which has some funk and disco elements, though it rocks, and it's got plenty of guitars on it, and a lot of guitar solos, which I think is kind of cool. We Got the Love. It's kind of an R&B funk tune. You got China, which is very early 80s pop sounding with some kind of leftover disco elements. Mad Dog mixes kind of a little bit of reggae and new wave. You got Lover Man, which to me sounds like Prince, early Prince from right around the same time. So that kind of early funk, synth pop, new wave R&B type of a mix. Otherwise, overall, this album, style-wise, it's all over the place. It's kind of like a mess to listen to because it's like the band is just seeming like they don't know what to do. It's like they've been away for all these years and now we're back. We're putting an album together. But what do we do, right? Who are we in 1982? And that basically sounds what the album is totally like. But Candy sounds really good on here. The musicianship is really solid. It's just a very, very uneven album, and like I said, just stylistically it's all over the place. And sadly 2 years later she would be gone, which is very sad. So on to my number 3. So my number 3, we're going to go with the album Sunset Ride from 1972. So here you've got, this is a twofer. These have the second and third album both on here, going back to Colorado, as well as Sunset Ride. And let me see if I can get you a better shot of, there you go. That's what the album cover looks like. So here you've got a completely different lineup. All right, you got Tommy Bolin is gone by this point in time. He's off joining the James Gang, replaced by a guy named Jock Bartley, who some of you may know that name. He later went on to form Firefall right around the corner, right shortly after this. A very popular country rock act. Pretty much an enjoyable album of kind of crisp blues rock, some more laid back tones. You can kind of hear that kind of West Coast bluesy country rock vibe throughout the whole album. I Am Not Surprised has some cool simmering organ and guitar. Candy sounds great on the album. I think she's really kind of coming into her own right around this time period. Here she's sounding a little bit more like Ann Wilson. She's got a little bit more control of her voice, less screaming, which I really like. My one beef with this album, a little bit too much harmonica in spots for me. You guys know I love harmonica, right? Someone to Chew has that West Coast bluesy country rock vibe things going on. You got the breezy high flying bird. Moving Too Fast has some tasty guitar playing on it. You got the dreamy Chasing Clouds, which has some really nice keyboards and guitars and vocals. Really nice guitar fills, as a matter of fact. Really nice track. I also like the intoxicating psychedelic sounds of Winter Always Finds Me, which might be one of the best tracks on the album for me. It's a decent album. A little laid back, though. I think seems to me like some of the fire that was Tommy Bolin kind of left with him leaving the band. This is it's a very pleasant album to listen to. Like I said, if you love some of the West Coast kind of like country rock, blues rock of that time period, it kind of falls right in line with there. I'm just missing a little bit of the edge, and I think Tommy Bolin kind of took that with him to the James Gang. But that being said, it's a really well-played and great-sounding album from a production standpoint. So it is enjoyable. It's just, it comes in at number 3 for a reason, but good stuff. Number 2, we're going to go to 1971, the second album, which is going back to Colorado. Let's see if I can get you pictures of these guys here. I forget exactly what we have in this booklet. There's one shot of them right there. And here's some more right there. So going back to Colorado again from 1971, their second album. Got the title track is an upbeat bluesy boogie with harmonica and slide guitar. A little bit different from the first album here. You got Miss Libertine, laid back mix of blues and folk and pop and psychedelia. Kind of like, it's almost like the latter period Jefferson Airplane. Like late 60s, early 70s Jefferson Airplane meets kind of like the Bob Welch era of Fleetwood Mac. Pretty cool tune. You got Night Fades Softly, lots of psychedelic noodling going on. That song, I like that quite a bit. You got the radio song, Catchy Good Time Rock and Roll. That could have been a hit. I wonder if they ever really thought of releasing that as a single or playing it on the radio. Very accessible. You got, so the first half of the album, don't really hear a ton of Tommy Bolin. But then he finally makes his big presence known on the snarling blues rock of See My People Come Together, which has some just killer wah-wah solos. Great song. Show Busy, killer hard rocker with some savage riffs and solos from Tommy. Another really, really great track. You got Keep Me. It's really nice, kind of gorgeous pop psych song. All right. Great Candy Givens vocals on that. You got the funky and jazzy Take My Love. Again, Candy is a standout on the slow blues piece, I'll Be Right Here. You got the atmospheric At This Very Moment. Another really good tune. Overall, pretty good album. I just wish we heard Tommy a little bit more, but I think this album is where Candy really starts to kind of accentuate all of her skills and stops trying to be a Janis ripoff and just does her own thing. Again, this album and the Sunset Ride album, both of them released back-to-back, album number 2 and 3, is where this band starts to be more about her. All right. But I think, it's a strong album. Tommy leaves afterwards to go join the James Gang, so that is that. But on we move to my number 1, which really there was no question because it's easily the strongest album in their catalog, which is the self-titled Zephyr album from 1969, otherwise known as the Bathtub album, as you can see right there. This is a cool reissue that came from Purple Pyramid that also has some bunch of live stuff on it, which is really cool. All right. two discs on here. So here, again, the lineup on this first album is Candy Givens on vocals, Tommy Bolin on guitars, John Farris on keyboards and flute, David Givens on bass, and Robbie Chamberlain on drums. And this is a nice mix of hard rock and blues rock. All right. They kind of have that West Coast sound, right? They're from Colorado, which is out there. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Candy really trying to hit upon that Janis Joplin and Maggie Bell thing on this album, which I think she's trying a little too hard because I think she sounds better on the other albums, but still good here. You've got Sail On is a great bluesy rocker with some really nice Hammond organ and guitar solos. Vocals are really strong. You got the absolutely scorching blues rock of Suns Are Rising. Although it's got a little too much harmonica for my taste, but otherwise a good song. You got the slow blues of Somebody Listen, which has a really, really cool organ solo. You know me, Hammond organ solos. It's always a plus. Cross the River is a absolutely rampaging hard rocker that sounds like Deep Purple. It's got some sizzling Bolin guitar solos on, a little bit of flute, a little bit of organ, right? You got the slow blues of St. James's Infirmary. Got the dark and heavy blues of Hard Charging Woman, which has lots of guitar and organ solos over some really strong vocals from Candy. It's a really strong album, very enjoyable album if you love that kind of early 70s. This is 1969, so not even 70s yet. Blues rock kind of style. Lots of jamming on here, lots of guitar solos. The whole album sounds like really live. It sounds like they recorded live in the studio, because if you just listen to it with a discerning ear, you'd almost say right off the bat, this has got to be a live album, right? Like I said, Candy screaming a little bit too much, but otherwise good stuff here. There's another, get you a little look at the live stuff that's in here. Don't have anything else to show you before we end this particular one. Let's see what we got here. I want to get like a nice band shot if I can. Yeah, there we go. Then with the Colorado background. There they are. Pretty good band. Like I said, if you're really interested in the early work of the great Tommy Bolin, you're going to have to obviously check out the Zephyr stuff. You know, it's not quite, for me anyway, it's not quite what we got from him in James Gang. It's not what we got with him in Deep Purple, or, you know, the amazing things that he did with Billy Cobham and Alphonse Mouzon, and certainly his solo albums. But if you love kind of the bluesy hard rock bands from this era in time, you know, the late 60s, early 70s, and you know, especially the two albums with Tommy on board and the live stuff, you know, well worth checking out. Some really good female vocals and a really interesting band. You know, think of like Big Brother and the Holding Company, right? But maybe a little more rockin'. Okay, although they rocked at times as well. But just think of Big Brother with like a absolutely virtuoso guitar player on board, because that's especially kind of like what the first album is, and maybe even the second to an extent, but a little more musical. I mean, Big Brother was a great kind of like really good acid garage band, and I really liked them a lot. But I think Zephyr brought a little bit more to the table from a virtuoso musicianship standpoint. You know, you got Tommy Bolin, you got really good Hammond organ and piano going on these albums. So it's a little bit more musical, but kind of like in that vein. So I think if you like the early Janis Joplin with Big Brother and the Holding Company, I think you'll like the Zephyr stuff. Like I said, and then the latter stuff, the very last album, that's an acquired taste. That's kind of like all over the place. You know, maybe the band shouldn't have gotten back together at that point. But the third album was good. Third album was good, more of like a West Coast country rock thing, but still pretty good. So there you have it. The Zephyr catalog, not much of it, but pretty cool stuff, especially for you Tommy Bolin freaks. So check this out if you have not already, and visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Please feel free to rank these albums as you like them in the comments below if you're familiar with them. If you're not, go out and check out a couple of them, then come back and report down in the comments what you thought of these Zephyr albums. So thanks for watching. I am Pete Pardo. Stay tuned. We got all sorts of stuff coming up here on the channel. We got In the Prog Seat happening tonight. We're part 1 of 2. We're going to be talking about our favorite 10 prog albums of all time, or in other words, our Desert Island discs for prog, fusion, prog metal. That's what we cover on In the Prog Seat. So that's coming up tonight. We got the full crew with us, so it should be lots of fun. We've got coming up tomorrow, we've got What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility Day, new album review day. I got a whole stack of new things that have come in. I'm not going to get to them all. Probably only going to get to a couple tomorrow, but you'll over the next couple weeks, you'll be hearing new reviews. Simon Phillips Protocol, new Voivod, new Elium, new Archival Live Cactus, new 10, new Amorphous, new Star One, new Spirits of Fire, new Jonas Lindberg. What else we got here? Space Lords, Robert Fripp box set. I mean, all sorts of stuff coming in that we're trying to get to over the next 2-3 weeks, so stay tuned for that and more. Thursday we've got the Monsters Den. We got always a fun program we like doing every now and then on the Monsters Den, where we just kind of talk about some of the new films we have picked up and have been watching. We might have some new reviews of some new 4K releases and some other stuff that we've gotten, some new Blu-rays and things like that. So that's coming up on Thursday. Friday morning at the Funhouse, Martin Popoff and I will be taking a look. It's going to be a 2-part episode. Some of our favorite and least favorite gatefold artwork, right? So for those of you who love the whole concept of the artwork, right? This time we're not going to talk about the covers. We're going to talk about those kind of cool and maybe not so cool gatefold artworks, right? So those open up the album and there you get this either grand, majestic piece of work or maybe something that's kind of not, right? So that's happening on Friday, part 1 and 2. Saturday, we've got the UK Connection with Simon Bray and Stephen Reed. And Sunday, we've got album homework assignment. Stephen Reed pulling double duty this weekend. He and Neve the Prog Nerd are finally getting to that episode. That'll be happening on Sunday. So and then we start the week all over again with the Hudson Valley Squares for our last 1982 album battle of the year. So it's going to be Manowar going up against Raven, so stay tuned for that. And please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell. We've got the link to our Ko-Fi page below as well as the link to our merch page. So check all that out, and I will see you later on in the proxy. Bye-bye.